Thank you, Jill. Thanks for the introduction, and thanks for the opportunity to be here at NRF Nexus 2022. And thanks to the NRF team for putting on a great event, great venue, great content here. Honored to be here with you guys. So we're going to talk about disruption. If you didn't get enough of that yesterday, we're going to overload you with disruption. Our presentation's how retailers can become the disruptors instead of the disrupted. And our agenda, rough outline, will be what disruption's happening in the retail space, why is it happening, the business model, why is the disruption happening, who is doing the disruption, and how can you be a disruptor instead of a disrupted. So if I didn't say the word disrupted, think of it as a segue from Pascal's presentation yesterday on disrupt the disruption. So one slide about me. I lead a team of a couple hundred marketplace professionals. We've been building marketplace solutions for 15 years, building e-commerce solutions for a quarter century. Many of these solutions generate over $1 billion of GMV. And also lead author in our book, Marketplace Best Practices. There are free copies outside. And during NRF Nexus, we made the Kindle version available free as well. If the QR code there will get you a free copy of the Kindle document. I'm also very honored to share the stage with one of the most experienced marketplace operators in the US, Neel.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all. Great to be here. Did we go away? There we go. So my background real quick, I've been in marketplaces for the last 20 years or so. I've built and run now 6 different marketplaces. Let's see, the longest tenured, I was the CEO of Buy.com and built and ran that marketplace from 2003 to 2010. We ended up being the 3rd largest marketplace in the US behind Amazon and eBay. Ultimately sold the business to Rakuten and then redid our marketplace as Rakuten North America and Rakuten's marketplace, a different way of doing things, much more, even more friendly marketplace seller friendly, and ran that for about 3 years. As part of that, actually, prior to selling the company, I had reached out to a few large retailers, namely Walmart, Best Buy, and a few others, for a few consecutive years about building them marketplaces. And so ultimately built and powered Best Buy's marketplace for a few years. Then left, joined my former private equity investors, and we built a marketplace at Bluefly, a fashion marketplace there. I was also on the executive committee advisory board for Noon, which is an EMAR-funded marketplace out of Dubai. Put $1 billion into that. And most currently run a marketplace for Simon Premium Outlets. It's actually a joint venture between Simon and the Rue Gilt Group. It's the premium outlets. If you've ever been to any of the premium outlets, it's bringing those outlets online. So a lot of marketplace over the last 20 years. Yeah,
great to have you on stage here. And you know, the outlets, the malls, used to be the physical representation of digital marketplaces. So it's great that you can provide both viewpoints in your presentation today. So let's talk about what disruption's happening. Look at some statistics. This is from a study by Miracle that enterprise marketplaces pre-pandemic, during the peak of pandemic, and hopefully now towards the tail end of the pandemic, have grown revenue or GMV at double the rate of traditional e-commerce numbers. 10% to 22%, 41% to 80% in the peak of the pandemic, and continuing now at double the rate in GMV sales. Part of why, that's happening is because of the additional SKU count. You have larger product categories, products, typically 29% more on a marketplace than a traditional e-commerce site. That has fresher content. You have more sources providing newer products on there, a lot of reviews. And what that does is that drives 4 times the traditional traffic to the website. So 1.4% is the average of the top 70 global retailers. And for the top enterprise marketplaces, that's 6.5% growth of web traffic. I don't think anybody would mind getting 4x the traffic of your competition with a marketplace. So McFadyen Digital did a lot of research in different segments of different industries as to what disruption is happening in marketplaces. So in this slide, we'll look at the bubble graph of the grocery segment of retail. So the horizontal axis shows the years of business. So most grocers been in business 75 to 150 years. The horizontal axis is the number of employees, generally 100,000 to 500,000 employees in grocery. And the bubble size represents the market cap of these companies, the valuation of these companies, which range from $7 to $36 billion. Well, less than 10 years ago, Instacart came along as a marketplace and has a higher valuation than all of these companies. It developed it in less than 10% of the time, less than 5% of the staff, no stores, and developed a higher valuation. Now, some good news, some of these companies, Kroger recently launched a marketplace, and Albertsons is going to launch one soon. Let's look at another slice, general merchandise, marketplace, comparing marketplaces to traditional department stores, which have been generally flat in their revenue. The last slide looked at market cap. This slide we're looking at revenue, or gross merchandise value. Whereas the marketplaces have grown at 800% in those same 5 to 6 year time frame compared to the traditional department stores. Now, some of these companies like Macy's, for example, is going to be launching a marketplace as well. So we are seeing retailers take that jump into the marketplace space. So let's get into the why this disruption is happening. So the business model is a platform business model versus a pipeline business. And the word platform means a lot of different things to different people. So let's kind of explain what it is not in the context of a marketplace. It's not a pipeline business. So retail and traditional commerce is a pipeline business. So what that means is a sequential series of activities that are very labor intensive, have to happen one after the other, from sourcing goods to negotiating contracts with the vendors, to loading that data, typically cryptic, 40-character descriptions into the ERP system. A merchandising team will merchandise those products. You have to set the price. This seems trivial, but it's actually an important differentiation in marketplace versus traditional e-commerce. You hold the inventory both physically and financially, meaning you outlay the cash to buy the goods, and you have to have the physical distribution center, warehouse facilities to store those goods. You process the orders. This is typically automated, but still a step in the process. And then you, of course, fulfill those goods. This can be a 2-month cycle. Very labor intensive, linearly scalable, meaning if you double your SKU count, you have to double your merchandisers. If you want to double your inventory, you have to double your warehouse space and double your distribution staff. It is very expensive to scale, and it's also not that nimble because it may take a couple months sometimes to source new goods, and you have one pipeline doing this to get to the end customer and get their cash. Now, on the opposite side, a marketplace is a platform. So let's understand what that is. It's a different organizational structure. The two core categories are recruiting sellers and supporting sellers in the marketplace. And of course, processing orders is typically automated. You'll have standard terms and conditions called a nexus of rules, which may reference, for example, a commission grid, which says, this category is 10%, that category is 12%, this category is 20% commission. You have to maintain a 3.5-star rating before you get suspended, et cetera. So standard terms apply to all your sellers. And it's a network effect, much like a telephone system or a social network that, again, grows exponentially. So you add one more node to this 8-node network, and you have 8 additional connections, not one more connection. It's going to grow exponentially. So on the seller side, you still have the customers that are your buyers, but it's on the supply side that is different, that the difference really occurs. So third-party sellers will do generally most of those 8 steps in that pipeline of sourcing goods, loading them into their systems, merchandising them, holding the inventory, fulfilling the inventory, et cetera. So third-party sellers do that. And they may source from one distributor, or sellers might source from multiple distributors, or you might have multiple sellers, third-party sellers, sourcing goods from the same distributor. In this case, they can end up competing on price, trying to win the buy box, and that drives down the price for the customer, spinning that flywheel circle that we've seen so much about. Distributors start selling on marketplaces, and even branded manufacturers start selling. Again, so you have a parallel team of people sourcing goods, merchandising them, loading them into your system, a much more resilient supply chain, many sources for goods, faster time to market for new products, and outsourcing a lot of that labor to the third-party seller network. So let's look at who runs a network today. So globally, all top 10 of the 10 largest retailers operate marketplaces, from Alibaba, the trillion-dollar giant, to Amazon in the US, half a $1 trillion. You see Neel's former company, Rakuten, up here as number 9. All of these operate marketplaces. Some are marketplaces for services. Some are marketplaces for physical goods, like Uber and Expedia for services. A lot of them in China. So in North America, 9 out of 10 of the biggest online retailers operate marketplaces. From Best Buy Canada to Kroger, I mentioned, just launched a marketplace. The one's not here, Costco, has some of the Costco folks here in the audience. In some ways, you could consider their offerings of home remodeling services or travel or insurance or checks as marketplaces. Those are priced and fulfilled by third parties, more of a services marketplace. But 9 out of 10 operate a physical goods marketplace in the US. In Latin America, same thing, 9 out of 10. Mercado Libre is the leading giant down there with close to 30 billion of GMV, gross merchandise value. And it's not just the big guys. A lot of the small companies and fast-growing startups operate marketplaces. 8 out of 10 operate marketplaces. I mentioned Instacart is one with a near $40 billion valuation. Actually, Fanatics launched a NFT marketplace, which could be considered a marketplace as well. And it's not just these 10, but Digital Commerce 360, who runs the Internet Retailer Top 500, Top 1,000 list you may have seen. They have a list of 300 marketplaces, scaling up to I think 10 million is the minimum threshold for the smaller marketplaces on that list of the top 300. So a lot of growth here. You know, Neel, you've worked with some of these companies from Rakuten and Best Buy in the US. Can you tell us about some of the disruptive marketplaces you've run and some of the results, even at Shop Premium Outlets?
Sure. So at Buy, when we launched our marketplace, within 4 years, we'd grown that to over $500 million in GMV. Now, we did start with a pretty sizable direct business already, but then we shifted that business over when we became part of Rakuten. When we launched Best Buy's marketplace, they quickly became the 4th largest marketplace in the US. And so it did, again, they had a very, very sizable business to leverage and start from. At Shop Premium Outlets, we launched our marketplace 18 months ago. We have grown, pretty fast for us. We've got over 200 sellers on our marketplace, 200 brands. A lot of these brands do not sell on other marketplaces today. We take a really unique way of bringing marketplaces together. But we've grown, in Q4 we grew over 100% year over year. So far, the first 6 months this year, we've grown over 200% with multiple brands doing over 20 million in GMV already.
That's great success for the marketplace operator and for the sellers. A lot of people may be interested in how to be a seller on a marketplace, so we'll touch on that a bit here. And Neel has a lot of experience on both sides of that. So everybody's probably seen the Amazon flywheel, actually a concept that Jeff got from Jim Collins. But there are really dozens of benefits to a marketplace. We're not going to go through all of this, but there are dozens of benefits for in-store, for data, for products, for sellers, profits, sales, marketing. Neel, could you tell us a little about some of those decisions about whether a retailer in the room here should consider operating their own marketplace, launching their own, or being a seller on somebody else's marketplace?
Yeah, sure. First, I'd love to see, this, by show of hands, does anyone here currently sell on or thinking about selling on any other marketplaces? Okay, so we've got a handful of folks for sure. Anyone here currently run and operate their own marketplace or thinking about doing that as well? Okay, not yet. Maybe that'll change after this. But you can actually do both. And so at Buy, we were actually the 3rd largest marketplace behind Amazon and eBay, but then also the largest seller on Amazon and eBay with our own direct products. So there are reasons for doing each. We had good traffic at Buy.com, pretty good name recognition, but not quite the same as our bigger competition. So the reason we really launched a marketplace is we knew we were knocking out Amazon, and we could not fulfill, we could not buy, we could not go through all those steps that you walk through that you need to do when you're owning your own retail product to that level. And so we sought out to create a different type of very kind of marketplace brand, friendly marketplace, but still really focused with a strong taxonomy and good categorization. We ultimately had 7,000 sellers on the site. I knew I couldn't buy toys better than Toys R Us, so I got Toys R Us to come on our site and help us with that as an example. But what you want to do is you really want to look for adjacent categories that you think your customers will still trust you with and feel comfortable purchasing. It does help you keep higher engagement with your consumer, help you drive higher conversions, and then able to go back because you get a lot of data and you're sharing that and you're working on that and can really have a better relationship with your customer. On the flip side, if you're selling somewhere else, I think it's really important to just understand what marketplace that is and how will your brand be received there and how will they be displayed there and is it a good fit for you? And then ultimately, given the fact that pretty much almost every marketplace does not share customer data with you, so you're really using it as a channel to sell product, you may want to be selective on what product you put on there. It may not be your full catalog. If your strategy is to utilize the marketplace fully 100% as if they sold on your own site and it doesn't matter to you, then great, go gangbusters and put everything there. If not, I would be a little selective. As an example, at SPO, we really focused on sale, clearance, and outlet product, and the brands today sell full price product on their own site. When I was on Amazon and eBay, we had a subset of our product set there. I wanted to get our brand out there, utilizing their traffic and what they were generating for us. Obviously, we were not directing people back to our site, but they did see that we sold tremendous amount of product at great prices, had great fulfillment. We were a top seller very quickly. We ultimately actually brought other sellers onto eBay and formed more of a strategic partnership there. But there was a reason for doing both. And ultimately, when we got acquired by Rakuten, we came off being a seller on anyone else's site, focused on our own site, and then also powering other retail marketplaces.
Great, great. And we see a lot of stats about how more product discovery is happening on marketplaces like Amazon as opposed to Google, as there is a lot of value for the brands being discovered on those marketplaces. One of the elements here in this flywheel is more data. Can you tell us about some of the data you collect at your marketplaces you've operated and whether you share that with your sellers from Shop Premium outlets?
Yeah, so traditionally, marketplaces do not share a lot of data. That is one of the knocks against marketplaces is you as the brand is helping that marketplace drive more sales. And yes, you are getting those sales, but they are getting smarter and smarter on that customer. Some marketplaces use that data to buy that product directly themselves, which it inherently undercuts you. Some actually go as far as creating private label products in that category or in those specific products. We've never done either of those because I've always been a really push to be a full marketplace. So you just have to be cautious on that. Make sure you've got a really strong brand if you are, selling on someone else's marketplace that could be more commodity based. But you do get a lot of great data as the marketplace operator. You understand what people are looking for. You understand what people are clicking on. You understand what people are buying. You understand the price points around those. And you can see comparatively where they like one brand versus another or one product feature versus another. But at ShopPO, we do utilize that and share that data. We share a lot of data with our brands anonymously with regards to their competitive set. And then we actually go as far as sharing customer data. So you can actually use it as a customer acquisition vehicle.
Great, great. So let's look at the how. So the marketplace journey is a series of steps. So we mentioned e-commerce is that pipeline activity of 8 activities that are sequential and labor intensive and a bit slow in some models. Dropship is the next step in this marketplace maturity model where you take essentially 2 of those 8 steps and outsource it to somebody else. The holding goods and fulfilling goods is done by a dropshipper. Usually you're still setting the price, you're still merchandising it and selling it, handling customer support, et cetera. But at level 3 of the marketplace maturity is when you really become a true platform business and you outsource a lot of those activities to the third-party sellers and get that real scalability of the business. Level 4, quantitative management, is really where that data that Neel was just talking about helps you drive the business. You can promote the best sellers, suspend bad sellers, optimize your categories based on data. If you have a mix of in-store versus online versus third-party goods, mix up that sourcing of goods to what's most optimal for your business, et cetera. And then level 5 is optimizing. This is very similar to the CMM or CMMI capability maturity model for those of you in the software development world. But looking at the level 4, where you have a lot of those metrics and KPIs, can you tell us a little bit about what you've experienced at your marketplaces, Neel?
Sure, a couple things to look out for if you are operating your own marketplace. One is, are the products selling? Are people looking for those? So are they getting page view hits? Are they ultimately converting and selling? Otherwise, you are adding an increased load to your site, to your search, and also you could ultimately confuse your customer a little bit. Don't want to give them that extra selection if they're really not looking for it. Secondly, and as importantly, is that seller doing a good job? I know you mentioned 3.5 stars. I mean, we had sellers that we removed at Buy.com and Rakuten that were selling on Amazon and eBay, and they'd call me and say, well, geez, look at my reviews there and look how great I'm doing. But at the end of the day, the one tough thing with a marketplace model when you're operating is you are utilizing these sellers, hopefully partners, as your fulfillment. And so they are an extension of your brand. And so if they don't provide a great experience, that is in essence you not providing a great experience. And so you want to make sure that you're really watching out carefully to make sure that these sellers are providing as good or better of an experience as that you would directly.
Great. So here's our marketplace enablement methodology. I'm not going to read through all these slides, all the bullets on this slide, but I will highlight a couple things that are unique to marketplaces. Some are common with e-commerce, but the layout here, the red is the strategy and business activities and decisions that need to be done, and the lower level, the technology is in black that has to be done. So I'll highlight a couple things, again, that are different in a marketplace versus traditional e-commerce. Some different tech stack selection has to be done. There's a little bit of organizational design. I mentioned the seller recruiters, seller support people. So that seller to marketplace operator relationship is a little bit different, and defining that strategy, what your KPIs for success are going to be. In the business prep, the category selection and curation, we'll talk about that in a sec with Neel. Defining those terms and conditions and what your commission grid is going to be like. And that's a very competitive element between Amazon and Walmart and Etsy and other marketplaces. What is the take rate on the merchandise? Is it 12%, 15%, depending on the category? The whole process of recruiting sellers and setting up some of those metrics and KPIs for the business and for the sellers as well. And as an ongoing business, there's certainly some seller recruiting, seller support, ensuring that they're providing the best customer experience, the curation process, how you decide which categories, which products, which sellers you want to have on your marketplace. And a lot of companies take varying, the wild, wild west, somewhat would say, of eBay versus much more highly curated marketplaces out there. And then on the technology side, the taxonomy is a very important element of harmonizing the catalogs from sellers to marketplace operators. You may have different field names, different attributes, for example, even different names of different colors that you have to map from one to the other. And there are lots of tools and technologies that can certainly help with that. The integration of tax is another element that's different, as the nexus for a tax calculation is the seller's location and the recipient's location, not the marketplace operators. So companies like Avalara and Vertex are great at helping with that in the marketplace business model. In the payment, there's some KYC, know your customer, and AML, anti-money laundering requirements to ensure that you're not funneling money to a terrorist organization or drug money laundering business. And even really the performance tuning and business analytics, having a dashboard of some of the seller and e-commerce operator information. So I mentioned the category selection and curation. So Neel, as both a marketplace operator and as a seller, can you tell us about some of your strategies for category selection?
Yeah, again, as an operator, I'd really look for anything that's really adjacent to what your core product and brand stands for. As an example, when I was trying to pitch Best Buy on their marketplace, I could go, I may have bought my earlier version of my iPhone from them, but they didn't have the accessories there. And so one of the ways to convince them to build a marketplace initially was, you don't want me going to Amazon to buy that accessory, or to Google, which will ultimately probably send me to Amazon to buy that accessory, because then when the new phone comes out, I'm going to ultimately buy it from them. So you want to get the adjacencies, the close adjacencies as best you can, and then extend from there. I mean, to the extent that your brand stands for something and you can really add to it, and you can see it, you can test the waters on adjacent categories that you think may resonate well with your customer. But you want to just stay true to what your brand is and who you are as best as possible. As a seller, again, it really comes down to, is this a core avenue from which you're going to drive significant revenue? Because most marketplaces do not share customer acquisition data with you, you've got to just really utilize it as a way to move excess inventory or really just drive overall sales. But again, realizing if you're not getting that customer, on SPO you do, but if you're not getting that customer, just make sure you're really wise about how you do portray your brand there. And do you want to have your full set of products there, or do you want to leave some back for your own site so that the customer learns about your brand and then hopefully then will come to your site and see that you've got some things unique and different at your own site as well? Great
advice there. So in that marketplace maturity model, we mentioned level 5 is really where you optimize, you come up with new business models. Amazon's done a lot of great examples of that, where they combine, for example, physical goods marketplace, a marketplace for services, and a marketplace for digital goods. So you can buy a TV on Amazon from a third-party seller. You can have it installed by a third-party service technician to come out to your house to install it. And then you can watch a movie from a third-party digital content provider from Amazon Prime. So a lot of different ways in which you can optimize and tweak the marketplace business model once you're at that level. Certainly Shop Premium Outlets has some unique offerings there. Can you tell us more about Shop Premium Outlets and how you've gotten to that level 5?
Sure. So again, we have the ability to do some of these things really because we are part of Simon. And Simon's greatest asset, obviously, is the physical footprint. And so we're trying to really leverage and take advantage of those. So again, if you are going to become an operator, really think of what are some of your strategic core pieces that you should try to leverage and utilize. For us, again, we focus, whereas at Buy and Rakuten, I had 7,000 brands, and retailers selling. Here, we're very limited. We're exclusive and curated list of brands. We only today focus on sale, clearance, and outlet products. So it may come from the mainstream stores, but it still has to be on sale or clearance, or it comes from the outlet, and then it's all good. We work very collaboratively and allow brands to decide if they want to be marketed, how they want it to be marketed, and when they want to be marketed. So we have a good amount of European luxury brands that don't currently put on sale products or any of their products discounted. And because of that, we also agree that we won't put them we won't have them indexed in Google. We won't have them show up in search. Some of them we don't do any social or any search advertising at all, and others are only okay just being on the website if somebody is searching for their product, even behind a gate. So we've got varying levels that we will do on the marketing side, but our team works very close with the teams. And then ultimately, the biggest thing we want to do, again, because of the Simon footprint, is drive customers into a brand's full price funnel and into their stores. And so I believe we're the first marketplace to launch buy online on our site and drive you into the brand store. So early last year with Mulberry, we launched that, where you could buy on our site and go pick up your product at Mulberry's outlets to start. We just launched ship to store. So again, they may have the product in their outlets and they ship it to one of their other stores, and that's something more convenient since the outlets are usually a couple hours away. So now you can go into a mainstream store and pick up your product, which again is very beneficial to the brand. We just ran 12 live stream events a couple weeks ago out of a couple different premium outlet locations in 12 different brand stores, again, highlighting those stores. But for us, it was a way to open up that inventory that was there as well. And then lastly, as we mentioned, the customer data share. In certain instances, we will actually go as far to share that customer data, allowing the brand to remarket to that customer directly to their own site and into their own funnel.
Great, great. A lot of great innovation there at Shop Premium Outlets. So these slides are available. We still have a couple more thoughts we can chat about here, or if there are some questions from the audience, we can certainly take those. But I'd like to ask you also about any lessons learned or some tips for the folks here on the journey of becoming either a marketplace operator or a marketplace seller.
Yeah, so if you're going to be an operator, I think the biggest thing for teams, one of the biggest, I think, mistakes teams make initially, and I did this at first myself, was having a separate team than your core merchandising team, because ultimately they do compete with each other. And salespeople do what they get paid to do. And so ultimately what I did is I brought the teams together under one overall merchandiser and just drove them to where we wanted to go. We wanted to go more marketplace, so incentivized them to go that way more. It is a tough change, a shift, if you've got your core product and all of a sudden you start selling competitive product or product that's different than what you've been buying all along. Again, if you own inventory in your warehouse and you need to move that inventory first and foremost, make sure that they're incentivized to do that. But where you can drive that incremental gross profit through a marketplace model, make sure that you are incentivizing that same team to make. Otherwise, there's competition around marketing, around product page, who's going to get the premium real estate, et cetera. So just trying to make it as cohesive as possible. And then as a seller on other marketplaces, just really evaluate what the best marketplace is for you, and don't feel shy in pushing back on certain things. If you don't want to be marketed a certain way or you do want to be marketed a certain way, definitely ask. Brands are the heart of a marketplace, and so you've got to make sure that you feel comfortable with what you're doing and how your brand's being displayed and portrayed, and ultimately just find the best place to sell your products.
And there are a lot of companies that are both operators and sellers on marketplaces. For example, Bed Bath & Beyond just launched a marketplace. where they have a lot of third-party goods on their e-commerce site, but they also list their products on the Kroger marketplace. So it's possible to do both, marketplace operator, marketplace seller, and first-party goods as well in a hybrid business case. So I think we've got 12 seconds left, probably not enough time to take an audience question, but I think we'll wrap it up here. I want to thank everybody for joining us in this session today, and thank again NRF for the opportunity to be up here. Thank you, Neel.
Thank you. Thanks.